Okay, I'm going to go over the steps for Project 14, which covers Excel Module 6. And first thing you may have noticed is there's actually some resources files to complete this project. So not only do you need to download the start file, you'll also need to download the support file, which is another workbook, and then there's also a Word document. So go ahead and download those files and save them to your desktop or your jump drive, wherever it is you save your documents for this class. So once you have those downloaded, then we can go ahead and get started. So I'm going to navigate back to my start file and I'm going to click Enable Editing. I'm just going to go ahead and save this to my desktop, and I also save the support files to my desktop. And because I've already downloaded this and put copy of in front of it, I'm just going to delete that out, and I'm going to change my 1 to a 2, and I'm going to save this document. Okay, so now I'm ready to get started. So the scenario is that Muna is an assistant hospitality manager at Ice House Arena, which is home to the Springfield Sharks. So she needs to summarize 2 years of sale data for her food vendors. So each stand supports a different section of the arena. So ultimately she has 4 different sections, and we'll actually work with data for those 4 sections as we work on this project. So the first thing it's asking us to do is to navigate to the vendor information worksheet. So here we have the tabs for the different worksheets at the bottom of our workbook. And I'm going to click on vendor information. And notice if I click in Loki Milosky, the stand manager, notice that the data here is actually pulling from an external source. You can look up here in the formula bar and see that. Well, our first step is asking us to clear that external link or remove it, so that we just have static text here. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and select the range of cells that we want to change, which is B4, B5, B6, and B7, and all we're going to do is break that external link. So to do that, we want to click on the Data tab, and then we'll look in the Connections group, and in the Connections group we have Edit Links. So I'm going to click on the Edit Links, and this shows us where the external link that this data is, this range is linked to. And all we want to do is click on Break Link. Now we are going to get a pop-up that says breaking this link is permanent, and so we know that, and we want to go ahead and break the link, so we're going to click Break Links again. And then all we simply need to do is click Close. Now you'll notice if you go back over here and click on Loki's name that now we just have that static text in our formula bar, so that link is gone. Okay, so still on the vendor information worksheet, we want to update some information so that other information can be quickly pulled. So what we want to do first is we want to put our insertion point in cell B9, and we want to create a hyperlink to the Ice House Arena vendor refreshment price listing. And that's one of the documents that we downloaded and I saved it to my desktop. So if you haven't downloaded it, you'll need to go ahead and download it now and go ahead and save it so that you're ready to hyperlink it. So I'm in the text, or the cell B9, which is where I want to put my hyperlink. So now I'm going to go to my insertion tab, and I'm going to scroll over here to the links, and in the links group I have the option for hyperlink. So now I'm going to click hyperlink, and so what we want to hyperlink to is the support file, and it's the Word document. So mine by default linked to existing file or web page, which is correct. That's what I want to link to, and now I want to find that document. So I saved mine on desktop. If you saved yours somewhere else, you can use your down or your more arrow to navigate to the location that you saved that file. So I'm in desktop, and now I'm going to look for that support NP Word document. So I'm going to scroll through my list of documents, and I see support NP vendor price 1920. So that's the file I'm looking for. But there's a couple of other things I need to do before I click OK. So the first thing is that once the hyperlink that we want our viewer to see is actually 2019 to 2020 vendor refreshment price list. So up here in the text to display box, rather than showing the name of our file, we're going to actually type in here 2019 to 2020, and we want to type in the text VEN vendor refreshment prices. And make sure that this text is spelled correctly. This step will be counted wrong if you have any extra punctuation, misspellings, anything like that. So we want it to be exactly as we see it in the instructions. So we're still not finished because there's one more thing we want to do. We want to make sure that when our viewer holds their mouse over this link, that they get the screen tip that tells us, that gives them a little bit of information about if they click the link, what they'll see. So we want to click on screen tip now. And here we want to type in click, maybe if I can spell it correctly, click here to view the vendor, and make sure you put capital letters on vendor and then refreshment price listing. Listing is lowercase, for the 2019 to 2020 season. And we want a period after that. We want to make sure we're typing it exactly as the instruction says. So you should have typed in for the screen tip, click here to view the vendor refreshment price listing for the 2019-2020 season. So once we have that typed in, we can go ahead and click OK, and we can just look here and review our text to displays 2019 to 2020 vendor refreshment prices. And then this address tells us that it's linking it to this file that we have saved, that I have saved to my desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now I have that here. And if I hold my mouse over it, you can see the screen tip that we typed in. So I think we have everything finished for step 2. So now we're going to move on to step 3. So on step 2, we actually inserted a hyperlink. On step 3, we're going to edit the hyperlink. Now be careful, if you actually click the hyperlink, it's probably going to try to direct you to whatever it's linked to. If you click into the cell though, now we can go still on the insert tab, we can come back up here in the links group and click on hyperlink. And now we can make changes to the hyperlink. So the hyperlink should use Icehouse Arena vendor website for the text to display. So right now it has Icehouse Arena. I'm going to put my insertion point after Arena, and I'm going to put in vendor website. Okay, so now I have the text to display, but I also want to add a screen tip to this. So I'm going to click on screen tip, and here I want to click, or I want to type click here to access the Icehouse, and Icehouse is, or the I in Icehouse is capital, and Arena is capital, vendor is capital, and then website. Make sure you're typing it exactly as it is in the instructions, and put the period at the end. So once I have my screen tip typed in and I've checked my spelling, I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So I've made the changes here, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now you'll notice that your web link has actually changed. The name is changed, Icehouse Arena vendor website, and then we also have the screen tip. Click here to access the Icehouse Arena vendor website. And then you can double check your spelling again if you desire. Okay, so we have step 3 complete. So we want to move on to step 4. And this one says Muna now wishes to give a consistent look and feel to the worksheets submitted by each of the vendor stands. So we want to group together the 3 worksheets, north, east, and south. So to group together worksheets, we'll click on the first worksheet, north. Then I'm going to hold my control key on my keyboard. Now I'm going to click east and south. So notice here that all 3 of these are in green. That tells us that they're all 3 selected. So anything I do to one sheet, that formatting will copy over to the additional sheets. So the first thing I want to do is change the font size in the merged range A1 to I1. So I'm going to click on A1. And this is a merged range, so you'll notice we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, 1. So this is this whole range here, and we want to just do some basic formatting. So I'm going to go back to my Home tab, and it wants us to change that font size from 20 to 28. So I'm just going to scroll down here, change it to 28. And then in the range A2 to I2, which is also a merged range, we want to change the cell style. So again, still in the Home tab, I'm over here in my Styles group. I'm going to select the More option. And in the headings, I'm going to select heading 3. Alright, so the next step, it wants us to bold the values in range A5 to A10. So I'm going to put my insertion point, or I'm going to click on cell A5, and I'm just going to select down so that I've selected this whole range, and now I'm going to click on bold. So still in the Home group, on the Home tab in the font group, I'm going to select bold. And then the last step for B is we want to apply the accounting format with the 0 decimal places and $sign. So if we go ahead and select the range, we want to select B5 through I10. Now we can go up here in our number group, and we can click on the accounting number format, which is simply this $sign here. And then we can come over here in our decimal places, and we can decrease those by 2. We just don't want any decimal places. So notice that before it said accounting, and now it says custom, and that's fine. You will not get that step wrong because there's multiple ways of doing this. So it's given us a hint, do not ungroup the worksheets. So with the north, east, south, and south worksheets still grouped, we want to update the worksheet as described below. So in cell A7, so I'm here in column A and I went down to A7, we're going to change that text from pepperoni bite to shark bite. And then in cell A9, I'm just going to hit my enter key a couple times so I go down to A9. We want to change this one to Pizza Frenzy. Make sure you're spelling these correctly and using capital letters on the first word, or the first letter in each word. Okay, so still it's saying do not ungroup worksheets. So with these 3 worksheets still selected or still grouped, notice they're all 3 still in this green, have the green bar letting me know they're all 3 still selected. We want to select the range B11 to H11. So here's B11, and I'm just going to pull all the way over to H11. And it wants us to use the auto sum button to enter a formula using sum. So I can either click auto sum, or I could use the drop down arrow and click on sum. Either one would work. And notice that it's showing me here which range that we're that it will sum, B5 through B10. So now that we have the auto sum all the way across the row 11, we're pretty much finished with this. I'm going to check this so that my formula is not showing. And so now I think we're ready to ungroup the worksheets, and we just want to check to make sure that our formatting was consistent across the worksheets. So I'm going to press my control key, and I'm just going to click on the other 2 so that I no longer have all of them selected. And I notice here I was on north, and I'm now looking at east, and I do see that my formatting has carried over. Okay, so the next step is Muna wants to create a copy of the formatted south worksheet to use for the west section. So right now we have north, east, and south, but now she wants to include the west section as well. So I'm going to click on the south worksheet, and here I'm going to right click, and this gives us a list of options here, and we want to actually make a copy, so I'm going to click on move or copy. Now we get a little window here that gives us some options. So in our instructions, it says we want to make a copy of the South worksheet, and we want it to be in front of the consolidated sales worksheet. Or we want it between the South and consolidated sales. So I'm going to look here before sheet, so I know I want it before consolidated sales, and I want to make sure I click on create copy. And then I'm simply going to click OK. And now that it created a copy, notice that I have South, and now I have South parenthesis 2. Now I'm going to right click on the South parenthesis 2, and I'm going to rename that. And we want to name this one West. Okay, so let's see. So the next step is in the merged range A2 to I2. So I'm in my West worksheet, and it's saying A2 to I2. We want to rename that to Feeding Frenzy. And that's the name of the West Side snack place. Okay, so I've got the name changed. And then it wants us to clear the contents of B5 through H10. Because remember, I'm selecting B5 over to H10. Remember that this is the information for the South sales. So we want to remove that sale information because the West will have different information. So now Muna wishes to consolidate the data from each of the vendors' stands. So we want to switch to the consolidated sales worksheet. So we're not actually going to enter any information for the West. We're going to move on to the consolidated sales, and we're going to make some changes here. So the first thing it wants us to do in cell A5 is enter a formula without using a function that references cell A5 in the North worksheet. So I'm going to simply click on my keyboard an equals sign. So anytime we start a formula, we want equals. And since it's not wanting us to use a function, all we really need to do is click on the North worksheet, and we want to click on the cell A5. And that's all we need to do. And I'm actually going to click on my check mark, or you can hit the enter key to accept the formula. Now notice that it took us back to the consolidated sales worksheet, and if we look at the formula in the formula bar, it's telling us that it's just copied, the information in cell A5 is just copied from the North worksheet, cell A5. Now we want to do that all the way down because our products is the same from North, East, and South, and West, so we can drag down, or we can just double click here in the corner, and that's going to copy this formula all the way down. Okay. Now one thing it does say is we wanted to do this without copying the formatting. So we want to fill without formatting. So once you've copied the formula all the way down, you should have got the little shortcut menu here, and we want to select fill without formatting. That way we keep our formatting that's in our table here. Okay, so now in cell B5 we want to enter a formula using the sum function. So I'm going to click on cell B5, and we want to enter a formula using the sum function, 3D references, and grouped worksheets that total the values from cell B5 in the North through the West worksheets. So here what we want to do is we want to, over here in our editing group in auto sum, we want to click on sum. So now we've started a formula. So here we want the sums from each of the different vendors. So we want to start on North, and we want that information from B5. So I'm going to click cell B5, and once I have that clicked, I want to make sure I put a comma in there so that Excel knows that I still want to add some values to this formula. So now I'm going to click on the East worksheet, and I'm going to click the same cell, B5. And I'm going to put another comma in here because I still want to add another worksheet, the South. So I'm going to put my click cell B5, put my comma in, and the last one we want to choose is the West, and we're going to click on cell B5. Now notice there's not any data here yet, but there will be eventually. So now we can go ahead and hit enter or click on our check mark in our formula bar. And now notice that we're back on the consolidated sales and that we have the totals for all four vendors for October in our consolidated sales worksheet. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can copy this formula from cell A5 down to A10. So I'm just going to drag down, and notice that our formatting is gone. So again, we want to fill without formatting, and now we have our formatting back for a table. Now we also want to let's see. We want to copy this over to the right as well. So now we have all of the formulas in for each month. And notice if we click on each month, it will correlate to this location in the other worksheets. Okay. So now step 10, Muno wants to compare sales from 2019 to 2020 season to the 2018 to 2019 season and needs to include the missing data. So to include the missing data, we want to make sure that you have your support file, support NP Excel 16 vendor sales file downloaded, and you actually need to still have it open. So if you've closed it, go ahead and reopen it. So what we want to do is we're going to switch. So I'm actually going to switch to it just to show it to you. So here's my support, and this is the consolidated sales for 2018 to 2019, and then this is my start file. So what we want to do is we're going to create an external reference in this consolidated sales worksheet to the sales information found in the support file. So to do this, we want to have our insertion point in cell J5. And we want to link that information to cell H5 in the consolidated sales. So all we really want to do is we want to hit our equal sign. And now I'm actually going to click on my support file. And I'm just going to click on cell H5. Now notice that puts the formula up here in the formula bar. And now I can hit enter or I can check mark. Now it's going to take us back to our consolidated sales. Now on this one, we can't copy the formula down, so we have to put it in individually for each one. So again, I'm going to hit my equals key. I'm going to go back to my support my support file. This time I want cell H6, so I'm just going to check. Same thing for I'm in cell J7, so on my support file I want to click on cell H7, and I did not click my formula first, so let me back up. Here I didn't put in equals. Now I'm ready to go to my support file and select H7. Notice I have it up here now, and I can check it. And I'm back here to my consolidate sales. So again, equals, and navigate back to my support. And I want H8 this time. I want to check it. Now I'm in J9, so I'm going to do my equals. Navigate back to my support file and enter, and then the very last one in H10, or I'm in J10 on my consolidated sales worksheet. I'm navigating over to my support file, and I want H10 here, and I think I forgot to hit equals again, so let me go back, equals. Now navigate over here to support and click my cell here, click enter, and now I have all of those external references added to my worksheet. And notice if you click on each one, it tells you which external reference we're referring to. The name of the worksheet is Consolidated Sales 2018 to 2019, and then this tells you the actual cell reference, and it's it's an absolute value here. So once we finish that, then we're ready to go ahead and save our, and it does have one last step. It tells us do not break the links. So if you want to check your links, remember at the beginning we broke the links. We can go back to the data tab in the connections group and edit links. We have our source here, and it's just telling us do not break links because we want that to link back. If we wanted the text to be static, then we could go ahead and break the link, but we do not want the link broke. So now you're ready to save. So go ahead and click your Save button on your Quick Access toolbar and submit it. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call or send me an email. Bye.